So
I was
I guess, Louise, so you started already in the chat. Would you like to share a little more on your experiences and kind of maybe dive a little deeper into it? Or should we do introductions or whatever?
Yeah, let's do it. I think that's a great idea. Do introductions. Hopefully my computer fan doesn't drown everybody else out. Lois Joseph, I'm an independent consultant and I work in the field of leadership development, soft skills, and coaching leaders.
Yep. Yeah, I'm Anders Olmanson. I'm the CEO of Run Mastered Sleep. We make the first water bottle that fights snoring, and in the future, hopefully, obstructive sleep apnea. Yeah, just trying to learn more about how to keep people accountable and manage teams and all that.
That's great. My name is Amy Bogot, and I am with Amy Lynn Coaching. I do small business consulting. And by small business, almost everyone I work with is a solo entrepreneur. So you think chiropractors and digital marketers, people who are on their own. And I love this topic. I'm excited to chat a little bit about it.
Okay, Trina, we're just kind of introducing ourselves.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Katrina. I run a fellowship program for social entrepreneurs. So I'm interested in sort of figuring out how to help hold entrepreneurs accountable for their own goals and progress. So would just love to hear from your experiences and sort of chat about it.
Well, Anders started this by asking a question, and I chimed in with the chat, and you probably already heard that. Is to me, leadership is all about becoming a trusted partner with whoever you're working with, and part of that is having those frequent check-ins. You can call them one-on-ones, you can call them updates, you can call them whatever you want. And during that time, talking about where are you with a goal or where are you with a project, and what has gone right, what has gone wrong, how can I help, and then actually following through when they say, well, I having a hard time with whatever, with this certain part. Okay, let me get you some help with that, or let me give you some ideas. And a lot of times it's listening more than telling them what to do, because that's what I believe holds people up, is when they either doubt themselves or don't have the right skills at the time. They do have the skills in there. They just are doubting themselves, and they need to hear themselves say it out loud.
I think that's a fantastic point. I think the other thing that you touched on with the listening part is really understanding what's motivating them. So I found with some of the entrepreneurs I work with, right, they're like, oh, I need to do all these things. And then the next week, oh yeah, I didn't do any of them. I need to do all these things. And then it's the same thing over and over, right? So that's not accountability. And the best definition I've heard of accountability is taking ownership of something. Mm-hmm. And so really defining that it's not just a to-do list.
She froze on my screen.
Okay.
And so I think going back to what Lois said, right? Listening, you're all, am I back? You all started going into, some other mode. So holding people accountable is really helping them take ownership. And I think so much of that is what Lois touched on, is just hearing them, hearing what they're motivated by, or what they need, what tools do they need.
I really like that, Amy, remembering what motivates them, because then that helps you also speak their language. Like if I'm trying to convince a CEO to do something, I better be talking about budget and the return on investment, versus if I'm talking to an empath or someone like that, then I want to talk about how it's going to make everybody feel better and it's going to build teamwork. Like, I need to speak their language. I always say, if you're talking to a teenager, you better bring up pizza and how that's going to bring more pizza.
That's awesome.
Katrina?
Well, I have just a question for you. Like, how do you, in those check-ins and like when someone is saying, okay, well, here are all the things I'm going to do. And then, week after week, it's like, oh, you didn't do those. Like, how do you get them to sort of make progress? Or, I don't know, do you have any techniques or like?
Yeah, a little bit like what Amy said, what's motivating them. Let's get to the source of what's not motivating them or what's getting in the way. So it's putting your coaching hat on and asking a lot of questions of what stopped you, what got in your way, what open-ended questions, those types of things. I actually have like 8 coaching questions at my desk at all times, so I can read them to you. What's the most important thing in this situation, and why is that important to you? Why did you select to do this? What's the most important thing? What are you aiming to solve or achieve? What are your barriers or fears? So again, it's like, what got in your way? Why, is it because you don't think you can do it? Those types of things.
Yeah, another thing that's helped, especially if people are giving the excuse that they're too busy, which is often, right? Something else came up. So part of that is valuing, right? They're making a value judgment to put something else over the thing that you're trying to keep them accountable to. So a lot of times if that happens multiple weeks, I will kind of redefine what the goal is. And then I ask them right in that moment to show me where in the next week that they'll get that done. So that it's not just, I'm going to do that this week. So then when are you going to do that this week? Show me in your calendar. And for some people, I have texted people and said, hey, you're supposed to be working on this right now. Are you doing that? Right? To kind of handhold a little bit. Hopefully that doesn't need to, that isn't how it's always done. But some of those things at the beginning. And to repeat back to them, you told me that this is important. I'm not doing this because I'm the one that's motivated. You need to be the one that's motivated. So I think sometimes also showing, kind of completing the cycle for them, not just what to do, but then where and how are they going to add that into their
I think you also need
day.
the buy-in from the person. Like they have to understand why they're doing it. How does it relate to the bigger picture? Like especially as an entrepreneur, I think you said you're working with entrepreneurs. Like you have so many things going on, and it's kind of like you have to pick and choose where you put your time. And if you understand the value or how that will interrelate into other things, into the future, like there's some things you can do earlier that'll set you up for future things. So I think it's just understanding that because you're making trade-offs, every day. And so, yeah, just getting the buy-in and committing to it.
And Katrina, I would love to know more about who you're working with or how,
sure.
Kind of how your
program
I'll just set up.
Sort of say for people that maybe joined a little later, like we are just kind of having an open conversation. The session facilitator, person that was supposed to lead the session, ended up not showing up. So if anyone else wants to jump in and join the conversation, please do. We are not like, this isn't like a prepared thing. So just want to put that out there because I don't want to take time away from anybody else that wants to talk. But yeah, so the program I run is called the Finnovation Fellowship. It's a 9-month fellowship program, really focused around leadership development, kind of like Lois, what you do, and building entrepreneurial skills in very early stage entrepreneurs who are addressing social or environmental issues through business. So yeah, part of that is my role as the program manager is to have bi-weekly check-ins with each of the fellows. There are 9 fellows, and it's, I don't have a background in coaching or anything like that, so I'm just kind of trying to figure out, and this has already been super helpful for me, but how to help hold entrepreneurs who are kind of, the program is structured in that there's a bit of structured curriculum and work that goes along with that, but also a lot of time sort of open-ended for them to work on their own personal leadership development, building and planning their business and all of that. So it's an interesting combination of things, and I want to be sort of support for them to sort of help hold them to making progress over the 9 months. So.
That's really great. One of the books I would highly recommend is called The 12-Week Year. And it is sort of a bit like Traction. It very specifically put together for an individual. So it's great for entrepreneurs or people who are running their own kind of program. So a lot of the other business books, right, it's more management or how do you manage teams. And this is more kind of how do you manage yourself? How do you set good goals? And I think it has a really great balance between some of the mindset challenges and the execution challenges. So that might be a good resource for you or the fellows here with innovation.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds great. I think that's one thing that trying to also navigate is helping them sort of set their goals, because they write a fellowship plan at the beginning of the program, and that kind of guides their focus over the 9 months. So how can I support them in figuring out what those goals are? Great. I will definitely check that out. Thank you.
So Luis and Amy, either one of you, so if someone's not accountable, like what do you do to kind of, I don't want to say like push them or reward them, or, like what are techniques that you use to kind of get them back on track? I know you guys talked a little bit about it earlier, but do you have like specific things you do, or would that just be an interesting question, maybe?
You can go first, Amy, this time.
Okay. I'm going to say, I think we're both going to have a little bit different perspectives, because from a leadership perspective, if you're managing people who work for you, I think that's very different than the people that I'm coaching who are working for themselves. So really they're letting themselves down. And usually one of the techniques, if it's a continual, they're not doing what they say is important, I just really call that out, right? So it sounds, you've been telling me that this is important for 7 months or for 2 weeks or for however long it is, but it doesn't seem like something that you are pursuing or really putting any effort in. Can you tell me why, right? And just really going, and I think we talked about this earlier, but really going a little bit deeper. And of course, there's no bad thing is going to happen to me if they aren't keeping their goals. But I feel like in a leadership setting, that's there's different consequences, right? If you're a boss versus I'm an outside consultant. So I'll let you. Yeah.
Hi, Rebecca. Welcome. We just decided to do an informal talk about holding accountable. And Anders just asked, what do you do if people are not staying accountable? And Amy shared from a coaching side, and I'm going to share from a leadership side. If I was a supervisor and someone was not holding accountable, influence and motivation, right? Big things with leadership. Again, Anders, like you said, job worth. Remind them of what their impact is to the organization and how they are helping the organization grow or keeping it running, so that they feel that they are contributing to the greater good. So the negative side of that is, because you're not doing this, who's being held up, who's being not able to do their job, what are the consequences because of that? And of course, always asking, how can I help? How can I support you to be successful in this? What is getting in your way? Let's talk about this a little bit. And is there something else going on? And the human side of it too, because sometimes as a leader, you don't know what's going on at home. I mean, right now we pretty much have a good idea of some of the things going on at home. Other things too to talk about. Is there something else that is getting in your way? Because we may need to shift, and COVID has taught us that, pivot, shift, just so that we can continue to be successful with everything. So those are a couple ideas. Just got to keep digging in and asking and talking about it. Did that help, Anders?
Yeah, yep. Definitely. Yeah, I found from my experience too, like 5 whys, kind of going off what Amy said, kind of doing, really digging into why maybe for someone it's not, maybe they're not performing at the level that you expect them to. And definitely having those like talks, if it comes to that, So yeah, I just thought it would be a good question.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting because it's so unique to each person. So I think the more personal you can be in that situation and really go into, yes, is there some other thing that we can't see on the outside that's happening, and then help work through that. When I managed a team, I ended up shifting work between the 5 people that I managed. They all kind of had similar jobs, but there was micro shifts that we could do where somebody was like, this one thing, I hate it. I don't want to do it. I'm not very good at it, right? Didn't have the skill set, but someone else loved it. So we kind of shifted the workload to different people. And so if there's ways to do that too, I feel like sometimes if you're, again, going back to the motivation that we've been talking about, if you're motivated, you're much more likely to follow through. So if there are those possibilities, I think that's always a good one to employ. But a lot of times with entrepreneurs and startups, there's not very many people to shift to. So yeah, so trying to stay in alignment with motivation and where are we going and what's happening, and yeah.
Mm-hmm. And are you finding, Amy, Rebecca, I'll let you ask a question soon, but are you finding too with some of your startups that they are getting in the phase I like to call, oh my God, what have I gotten myself into? The impact on goals and accountability and the progress that they're making.
Yes. So I've got one client who we've been working together for just over a year, and his goal was to more than double his income when I first started working with him, and we've hit that based on some pivots we've been able to make. But now he has a whole new set of pivots he needs to do of, dividing work and outsourcing more things, and he's dragging his feet on that because now he met that goal, but now it's too much, right? And so we keep talking about the things that he needs to do to get a virtual assistant and to actually hire a bookkeeper, not just talk about hiring a bookkeeper. So now money was the issue. Now it's time, right? He's making the money that he wants to make, but he doesn't have any time.
Yeah, he's not willing to let go a little bit. And that happens with employees too. They have this, I want to do this big project. And then they get in the middle of it and they're like, oh my God, what have I gotten myself into? And talking them through that. So Rebecca raised her hand when you said bookkeepers. So is my intuition correct? Are you a bookkeeper?
Amy and I know each other.
Okay.
Yes, Amy and I know each other. She's my coach. But yes, I do bookkeeping for small businesses.
And she's good at it.
Okay.
Thank you. I like to think I am. We, from a team's perspective, I don't really have trouble with holding my team accountable. Thankfully, and we both divide the responsibility, so that tends to be helpful. The problem that I usually run into, kind of in a similar situation as Amy, I run into issues with clients holding them responsible. And it's always a weird dynamic. In some cases, they like to think that I almost get the pushback from them that I shouldn't be holding them accountable to things because they hired me to do a job. At the same time, I can only do that job if things provided to me from my clients. So it's a very fine balance that I don't always have figured out. And it's kind of a tightrope in some cases.
Yeah, that's an interesting one where you can't deliver if they don't deliver, even though you're working for them.
Yeah. Yep.
So looks like. Oh yeah. Should we move on to Nathan's question, or Nathaniel, or should we keep going on that one? So okay, I was just looking. But Nathaniel Opperman asks, "How do you hold accountability to continued development / skill acquisition?" So I guess I can say from my personal experience, it's like finding good books or mentors kind of like continually doing that, like learning. And definitely like when you're doing a startup, you have to kind of keep learning different areas that you're not familiar with. So you're kind of like you kind of have to be the expert in an area, and sometimes, unless you find a consultant or someone that you can work with. So I think, yeah, how you hold yourself accountable. I think for me, I just love to learn, so I guess that's not an issue for me. But I guess I don't know if you guys have some ideas for personal accountability. Yeah.
I'd like to talk about with the skill development, how it's a
Hire
ripple
a business
effect.
coach.
It makes you more. That's true. That's true. But the more you're learning and growing, it makes you more open to change, agile, open to new ideas. And it's amazing the other doors it opens, even though you may be looking at learning more about being a better presenter, but yet because your mind is so open to new ideas, it's applicable in other ways. So if you can remind yourself of that, I think that's a great way to continue to do the skill development. But yes, it's nice to have a coach to hold us accountable.
Yeah, I think on Teams, the
There he
best
is.
group that I was. Oh, there he is. He's joining us.
Yeah, the quick question I had was more around the team members that you have. When you have everyone's busy, small staff, and sometimes you've hired people in for a specific skill set and they're performing to an acceptable level there, but you realize that really to leverage your team, they need to continue to develop and take the initiative to grow in more areas. And the pushback that you receive is, too busy. It's not, there are those that have a growth mindset and immediately go out and do the self-help books or go online, LinkedIn and the Googles there's a ton of resources out there. It is no longer a question of, do I have access to the information? It is now a question more of, do I have the either drive or the motivation, be that external or internal, to go out and do it? And I'm running more into that challenge of how you get people outside of their day-to-day, outside of their comfort zone, outside of the I'm too busy or I'm doing my daily work, to enhance their skill set. Wondering if there's any techniques you've used to encourage people to highlight the real need to continue down that development path.
I think one of the biggest things there is it has to be modeled from the top down. So if you're showing that you are making it a priority, it will help the team know that they can actually do that. So if they're feeling, do we lose both of their pictures? Maybe
Just their video, I think.
Oh,
I just turned off my video.
Clear.
Okay, all right, okay, good. I just think that has to be modeled from the top down. So if they're saying they're too busy, how can you help reset even their understanding of what their deliverables are for them to know from you, actually, this is another deliverable that I'd like to see, right? So until they can take ownership of that, there may be some goals or standards that you need to add into their workload, in the sense of, I don't know, do they have a budget that they can use for seminars or books? Like, are there other ways that you're reinforcing that this is important to your company culture? And I'm sure Lois would have some initial stuff from a leadership side.
Yeah, I happen to have some stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, top down, in my opinion, if the leader isn't doing it, no one else is going to see the value or make the time, in my opinion.
I agree with you, Amy. And then to take that one step further is to, if you are a leader and you're learning something new, have them help you be accountable to this new thing that you're learning or new skill that you're trying to put into your daily routine. Be vulnerable in front of them and say, I would say to Amy, I'm trying to increase the amount of time I'm presenting with people or talking to people or being more concise with my conversation. If you see me get back into my old habits, just nicely nudge me or tell me later. Please don't embarrass me, but help me grow this skill. And it becomes part of the whole culture of helping each other, not even holding each other accountable, but it feels more like helping each other.
I completely agree with Amy and Lois. I would also add just communication, and not necessarily like trying to force your employee into a box of an area where you want them to grow, but asking them where they want to grow and encouraging them to grow in those interests.
Yeah, I feel like unfortunately we have a somewhat negative view of accountability where it's, it's this bad thing, or you feel like you're being punished and therefore you're being held accountable. So I think to really flip that around to taking ownership, or to setting your own goals and reaching your own goals, right? That can sometimes flip around the connotation of that word. But I do think it's so important to have those goals out there, and then again take ownership to reach them.
I mean, I like that fact too, that accountability is not negative. If I'm not doing something up to company standards or expectations, and you don't tell me that, mean to me, that's not even fair, or you're not being a leader. Because 98% of the time, people are not doing that on purpose when they don't reach up to the company standards. They are doing the best they can and are doing it in a way they interpret it was the best.
And Nathaniel, I'd say for me, like if I tell someone to learn in an area and I just kind of make it very broad, like often it doesn't seem to happen as much versus if I tie it into their work, or if I be like, hey, take this free online class, or whatever the thing, you kind of give them a route to do it. If you just ask people to do it, they're going to put that off to the side unless they're really motivated. Just somehow tying it in, like, here, we got this project, we need this skill, could you contribute in this way? And then I think people are more willing to learn, and then they apply it as they're learning. So it's kind of like a double win. You're getting the value from the skill and also learning it at the same time, versus just learning it. Yeah.
If I could build off of that a little bit too, and tying in things that I'm learning from Amy, I would say like set an example and have leadership where you have them create time in their schedule for learning these things. I mean, that's been a huge, as an entrepreneur, that's been a huge thing for me that I've been learning from Amy, is I've had to actually intentionally create time in my schedule for learning and for doing new things or planning. And if you're showing that leadership with your employees and your team, then they're going to see that it's a make time for it.
Mm-hmm.
A quick question on that, like, do any of you have thoughts on like how to measure skill development, or like measure your progress on like developing a skill? Because I feel like maybe part of accountability is having set goals or milestones and objectives. But I think with skill building, it's sort of a little difficult to do that. So I don't know if any of you have thoughts on that.
Yeah,
Good.
it's really easy to measure technical skills, so to speak. Like if you're making widgets, are they quicker at making widgets? The soft skills are a little bit more loose to measure, but you still can measure on return investments with soft skills in ways of like measuring customer satisfaction and measuring the decrease in complaints or things like that. So there are ways to measure it. And I'm being pretty general here because I could talk about it for hours. But that's kind of the way, that's the gist of it. Mm-hmm. But it's if they're improving in whatever skill that they're doing and you're able to recognize that, then that's your measurement and then celebrate. And celebrate if they've just a slight improvement, not just, oh my gosh, you finally made it to the level we need you at. Celebrate every improvement, every increment of improvement.
So do you, like, as you're kind of working with people setting, like talking about these skills that they want to develop, like, do you sort of put them into something tangible of like, okay, at this meeting, I want to work on, or like generally I want to become a better public speaker or better presenter. So like, here are the opportunities for that I have coming up. I have this big presentation. Like, what I want my output to look like is being able to, have confidence giving that, or like, do you set kind of goals around that in that way?
So I work more with companies and larger companies to see what areas they are. When I work with individuals on specifically on a new skill that they have. So let's use your example of presentations. If your goal is to improve your presentations, well, what does a good job look like? I don't say 25 times in a 20-minute my filler word, whatever my filler word is. And so then we make that as a incremental goal, and then almost like the steps. So you're breaking it down. Yep. Yes, and then we measure those and see how they are improving in each of those areas.
Yeah.
Amy probably has a different way since she does more one-on-one coaching.
Yeah, I just loved your the point of celebrating growth, right? It's not just celebrating when they get somewhere, but celebrating kind of the incremental pieces. So one of the ways that I see that with most of the people I work with is how well they can pitch their services and how well they can ask for their pricing, right? So many times solo entrepreneur service-based businesses, saying your price out loud feels like you're trying to rip everybody off when really you're barely paying your bills. So even growing in that kind of skill where they don't sweat every time they say their pricing to someone, or some of those pieces. And I always encourage people that the only way that you're going to get better is to practice. Nobody expects a kid to pick up a basketball and be Michael Jordan the next day, right? It takes those incremental pieces. So to normalize that too in their own experience, that you're not just going to intellectually learn a few things and then do it perfectly, but it is a growth, it's a growth path. Just like you wouldn't plant corn and expect an ear to grow out, you expect the plant, then the leaves, then each of those pieces. So to normalize that growth experience, I think can also help. And then to look at those incremental things that you can measure. And then there's always those things that you can't. So. Practice makes perfect.
We have like
just raising their comments. Sorry, Anders.
Oh, I was just gonna say. So I think, is there like 10 minutes left in this one? Should we do like any like your good advice or kind of like takeaways for? Should we do that for each person, or any final questions? Yeah, I'm trying to moderate this, even though it's not like.
No, I love the leadership.
Great job.
I like what Amy, what you said about this is why collaborations are so good, because we can build on each other's ideas. But I like what you said about solopreneurs and entrepreneurs almost choking up when they say their price. And I'm sure you've seen this on LinkedIn or something, the quote about, you're not paying for 30 minutes of my work, you're paying for 30 years or 10 years or 20 years of my experience. And I think that all of us as entrepreneurs need to have that on our wall. So when we're ready to talk about our price, we don't choke on it. And we remind ourselves, I am worth this. Came to myself too.
Yeah, and it's
I
not
think I
just
need it tattooed
that
on the
one
palm of my
service,
hand.
right? If you're solo. Yeah. That's good. That's good. Yeah, and it's not just that one service, right? As a business owner, you have other expenses that ultimately your clients need to cover, which also kind of seems weird, but your marketing and the rest of the time that you're not one-on-one with a client, especially if you trade time for money in those situations. So yeah, it's a unique thing to need to get over, but yeah, jump in and just keep going. That is awesome. I wish you would have joined us on video. That's great.
So Katrina, any great takeaway from today?
Took a lot of notes. Working out really well for me. So thank you all so much. Yeah, I mean, just kind of, I really like the, figuring out what's motivating them and sort of tying that in every time of like, and the like, you said this was important. So I just want to help you, make sure that you get this done. Because I think for me, it's hard to, it feels almost like I don't want to like be telling people to do something, or like, I don't know. So it's helpful to kind of just like bring it back to like, you said this was important. Like I'm helping you, make progress on these things that you want to make progress on. So, yeah.
Yeah, Katrina, I would take the posture of almost like a cheerleader. Like they've told you where they want to go, and you are the cheerleader to help them get there, right? So you're not the boss in that way, right? You're not coming down and saying, if you don't do these deliverables, you're fired. But it's more of that cheerleader kind of out from them,
Right. Yeah. It's an interesting balance. Like with I think the program is unique because there is a combination of like I need these things from you, like for the program. But also they will help you, as you progress as an entrepreneur. So, and then there are also things that are totally sort of up to them to identify and decide they want to make progress on and all of that. So yeah, but yeah, I like that, being a cheerleader.
Yeah. So yeah, I really like the discussion around the metrics around kind of different skill development and other things. Like that's something we definitely need to improve upon. We kind of just like let people do it and then see the results of the work. But yeah, the metrics, like thinking more in depth of how to quantify things and show progress. I think that's really good. So yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, I liked that in relation to the soft skill development, which I think it's easy to help people with kind of those hard skills. But I think what I'm going to take away from this is thinking about, as we're working on different soft skills, how do you put some other metrics or some other measurements there to be able to show that progress? Because I think when people can see their own progress, it just helps motivate them to continue. So I'm going to be thinking about how to make those soft skills more measurable, which was really a good thing to think about.
Mm-hmm. Amy, I'd love to have a conversation around that with you. No, nothing attached.
Definitely.
Just a conversation to talk about that a little bit more.
Yeah, would love to connect.
This worked out
Katrina,
great.
I think I met one of your fellows. Sorry. We're over each other.
When?
Yeah.
Sorry, what was
I'd
it?
love to connect with you too. And so I met one of your fellows at a session that I did Tuesday. She attended, so that was great. She had nothing but amazing things to say about the fellowship. So yeah, but I'd love to connect
awesome.
and hear more. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be great.
I'll track you down.
Yeah, I'm like, how do we, like, I don't know how to use this.
I'll find
Okay, we'll find each other. That sounds great.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you.
Yeah, thanks everybody.
You should be able to under the
It's kind of a fun impromptu.
Okay.
Yeah, this was great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Very good.
Thanks, everybody. Nice to meet you.
Bye.
Yeah, nice to meet you.